What's something everyone should experience in their lifetime? Story 1. A healthy, non-toxic relationship. There is literally nothing quite like finding the truest of true, legit soulmate love. It's incredible. The power of it is insane. I was unbelievably fortunate and was able to find this at a very early age. Sometimes, even after many years together, I can still look over it and just get completely knocked off my feet by the amount of emotion I feel for this other weird human. The smallest absent-minded touches still carry the full weight and warmth of just straight-up undiluted love. Just to feel those emotions for yourself is crazy. It's such a heady feeling. Add in the fact that you know in your heart of hearts that they feel the same way about you, that they love you just the way you love them. Just forget about it. It's the best feeling in the world. It's wild. Oh my god, and then you sail past the first decade and realize that you only love them more deeply. That's a trip too. You can look back and literally see how you've built each other up and guided each other into being the best people you can be. That you have built a life together on foundations of love and trust. That you have literally developed your own language that's just for the two of you in everything you do. Just having that comfort is worth more than anything. It's the most valuable thing in the world. I sincerely hope that everyone gets that. It's amazing. Man, I can feel all that love from this lady. I hope I do get that. Story 2. Living by yourself. In the mid-90s, I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship and had the opportunity to relocate a few hours away, so I jumped at the chance of a new start. I moved to a city where I didn't know anybody outside of the staff I hired and worked with. The first few weeks were rough. I was accustomed to having a good social life, so going straight home after work or trying to go out and meet people was not something I was used to or comfortable with. After those first few weeks, I had a routine. I would leave work and head to the beach. There I would buy a beer, sit on the beach, and watch the sunset over the Gulf of Mexico, then head home. I'd make myself dinner and watch some TV. I'd then go to bed and do the whole thing over again. On the weekends, I would just do whatever I wanted. I would go to the movies or dinner by myself. I would go for a walk or a drive to see some new sights, or just spend the day at home relaxing. After a year, I had the chance to take a store closer to home, so I moved back to the old area. But when I got there, I found that I didn't want to hang out with the old crowd. I had grown so much in that year that going back to the old habits just didn't seem interesting to me. It was a long year, and at times it was rough, but it was such an amazing learning experience. I learned so much about myself that year. Story 3. Seeing the Milky Way. If you live on the East Coast, Cherry Springs in Pennsylvania has the darkest skies east of the Mississippi River. It's crazy dark. It throws your brain off. It's so dark that the light of the Milky Way actually shines through the clouds. It takes almost an hour for your eyes to adjust to levels you'd never thought possible. Just to further explain how heady the experience is, you see thousands of stars with your naked eye. That's crazy, right? Nah, I took out my binoculars to look at Saturn, and the number of stars you can see goes up tenfold. Like, I don't care what you're thinking in your head, it's more. It's almost bright. Like, you have to squint. I went on a moonless night, and I could see by starlight. But with the binoculars, man, it was like looking at a frozen picture of static TV. Your brain is just not prepared. I started to get lightheaded and noticed I went almost 3 minutes without breathing, holding my breath instinctually, so I moved less and could see more through my binoculars. Story 4. The Northern Lights are really beautiful. I moved to Alaska for a stint in 2015. Of course, I knew Alaska had different aurora shows during the winter, but it wasn't exactly on my must-do list while living there. I had a lot of other outdoor-oriented goals to check off while I was there. Anyway, while I was out at work one night, I first saw the green hue approaching slowly on the horizon. I wasn't even sure what I was looking at until my coworker mentioned, "Oh, I guess the lights are on their way in." Not exactly sure what he meant by that. I just acknowledged him and thought, "Oh cool, this might be interesting." Over the next little while, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, the green hue drew a little closer and brighter with each passing wave. Out of nowhere, it went from a slow tide of color rolling into an absolute explosion of color right above our heads. I was speechless. I didn't know this feeling that I was experiencing for the rest of the time in my life. It was a spiritual moment of clarity, and emotional overload where time stood still. I felt like I was staring into the eyes of the universe. Once it passed, I swear I was not the same person. Well, at least I view things differently now. Problems don't seem as serious as they were before. I just have a different perception and handle things differently after witnessing that. It made me feel so much smaller and the world so much bigger. I might recommend visiting Iceland or Norway instead, though, if that's your goal. The Alaskan weather is so unpredictable that you could very easily go out 5 nights looking for lights in different areas and have 5 nights of cloud cover each time. Story 5. Living alone. Being truly by yourself for long periods of time can teach you invaluable things when becoming an adult. I really wish this was possible for literally everyone. When I was younger, I had a lot of mental health issues, and a lot of them were exacerbated by living with other people, and I honestly didn't know that at the time. Then, once I got older, I had my life somewhat together. I had a major life event that ended with me being in a 2-bedroom apartment and not needing a roommate. I built out 1 bedroom as an office and enjoyed the silence. I enjoyed everything being where I last put it. I was grumpy at first when dirty things stayed dirty, but I was pleased when all the mess was mine. In some places, they have SRO apartments, which are sort of like dorms for grown-ups, but are mostly used by single old folk and people who've had some hard times, if you catch my drift. I really wish cities would just build those out everywhere. Big towers of super small studio apartments. Hell, throw in some dependency counseling, therapy, security, and an on-site doctor, and you've basically solved the homeless crisis and given weird neurodivergent people like me have a happy place to live. I am totally digging this organized chaos idea. At least I don't need to explain my masterpiece to anyone else. Story 6. Traveling outside your country of birth. Much better if you can actually live in a different culture for 1 or more years. A backpacking trip or something is great, but you're still looking in from the outside. There is a huge amount of everyday culture that you don't get to experience when you're in vacation mode. Even something as mundane as going to the doctor's office or getting the electricity turned on can be a new experience in a different country. Work is also a huge part of daily life and culture that you won't experience if you're just visiting, and it can vary quite a bit. Not to mention the time it takes to cultivate strong, non-transactional relationships with locals who don't work in tourist-facing industries. And just being immersed in local news, politics, TV, and mass culture, being there for holidays, historical events, festivals, seeing the different seasons, watching your surroundings change before your eyes. The challenge of mastering a foreign language, even if it's just a matter of deciphering the local slang, it's an incredibly stimulating experience that will expand your horizons in many, many ways. Story 7. Getting a hug from someone who has been waiting all day to see you. This is hands down one of the things I always mention about my husband when I talk about why I love him. Every day when I get home from work, he gets up from what he's doing and gives me a hug, no matter what. Or if I'm home and he's getting home from work, he comes to give me a hug and then we sit with each other for a bit and talk about our day. Going from being in a relationship with someone who only wanted to see me once or twice a month to being with someone who couldn't wait until I got home every day was the best thing that could have happened to me. Story 8. Getting to know people who aren't like you. It's one of the best ways to grow as a person and learn new things. It also opened up the mindset. I sometimes feel like I can talk to people who think totally differently from me. The more I meet people, the more I truly get to know them. And the more I realize we share so much and yet are so different. It is one of my favorite beauties in life. Story 9. Financial security. My husband and I were completely broke when we started out. We went from living with his parents to then my parents, a terrible decision, but we had no choice, then finally being able to get our own place. Although it was tiny, it was ours. Fast forward 14 years, 3 kids later, and a lot of discipline, and we are completely debt-free and currently have a very modest salary between the two of us. We never thought it would be possible. I'm convinced that our struggles made us stronger and helped us appreciate what we have. We are still disciplined spenders, but if there's something we really want now, we get it and don't feel bad. I wish everyone could experience this type of freedom. Story 10. It might sound depressing, but it's not meant to. Losing the fear of passing away. It wipes away all care and lets you be free. I achieved that some years ago. I had my entire colon removed because I was around 2 weeks from being gone from this world. The surgery went well, until it didn't. I went into sepsis, and the surgeon on hand said he wasn't the kind of guy who does that surgery. We could wait a day or two for the guy who does, and in the meantime, run some more tests. But I probably wouldn't be there by then, so he asked if I wanted him to go ahead. He said I'd be waking up with a few new holes in my abdomen and the entire middle stapled shut. What are you gonna do? I had around 50% odds of surviving that one. I gained a newfound appreciation for Don't Fear the Reaper by the Blue Oyster Cult. I've done things since that I wouldn't have done beforehand. Things I'm sure the doctors would have had a few choice words about. I genuinely have very little fear now. It freaks out my wife sometimes. I guess experiencing a near-death situation is a surefire way to get rid of fear of death from your life completely. But dude, I don't think I would want to be anywhere near that kind of situation. Anyway, if you're up for more epic stories, just tap that like button and subscribe to my channel. I have more where that came from. Story 11. Everyone should experience doing something significant for someone who cannot possibly benefit them in return, and doing so for no credit, recognition, or return. I don't believe one should act and not derive some self-satisfaction. One ought to feel good internally about being a good human. You haven't failed if you helped a person or animal and felt satisfied. There are a myriad of quotations that begin or contain the measure of a man and address his idea in some form. Anyway, do something nice because you can. I volunteer at a cat cafe which houses shelter cats. I go every day I can. However, it never feels like charity and helping because as much as I socialize kitties, improve their lives with love and care, and clean the place, I also get to go to the cat cafe every day for free. The best volunteer position ever. I also sometimes donate to cat shelters or for vet care anonymously. That feels like it counts more. Story 12. Failure, and the maturity to accept and learn from it. The ability to be able to say, wow, I could have done this better, that was actually my fault, and I messed up, has been invaluable to me. And doing so requires a level of evaluation of my actions without making them wrong or significant. It's a matter of performance. To be able to own what I've failed to do or could have done better is the only access to performing differently in a way that really matters in my experience. Embracing failure is so freeing. Story 13. Being employed at an entry-level public-facing position such as salesperson, cashier, waitstaff, or etc. Not only just experience it, but be the target of the ill treatment all of us in the service industry face by ignorant, entitled people who think that just because we do our job, we are less than them. I've worked in many industries and jobs in my life. I found my current career in my late 30s and realized it was where I was meant to be. I didn't need the job. It was something I was doing to get out of the house and to pad our savings account. I fell in love with giving kids a good experience of being in the workforce and having a good work ethic, watching them grow, gratitude, and move on. But now with empathy and job knowledge, the last 2 years have saddened me so much with the change in people's attitudes, especially toward management. They treat me like inflation and understaffing is my fault. They have no patience and general distaste. I noticed it more as sit-down restaurants were closed and people who don't generally frequent my establishments were not given a choice. They treat me and my staff as servants and are offended if I don't give them my undivided attention now, even when they see that I'm trying to do 5 to 6 things at once. I do my best and I truly love my job, but it's tough. Story 14. Hiking to a mountaintop to see the sunrise. Hiking Mount Fuji to see the sunrise was simultaneously one of the most amazing and horrible experiences of my life. The shivering, sleep-deprived shuffle to the top right before sunrise was just awful. I remember turning to my horridly altitude-sick fiancé and just mouthing, "I'm so sorry," since I was the one who convinced him on this adventure. Once the sun came up, it was absolutely incredible and way warmer. And even my green to the gills fiancé managed a "that's nice" before we rushed him back down to thicker air. I am glad I did it, but I will definitely never do it again. Well, that was an awesome idea, until it wasn't. Story 15. Live your life on your own terms. It seems simple, but it can be really hard depending on one's circumstances. I spent 30 years trying to be brilliant and beautiful and break the glass ceiling. Once I did, I realized I hated it and eventually harmed myself. The pretentious life, the greedy people, the misogyny, the bizarre things that wealthy and powerful people get away with, the PTSD from all that. But I was scared to death to leave all I'd worked for, to lose respect, to be poor. It took over 2 years of aggressive therapy for me to jump. Now I run around in ugly jeans, building stuff. I don't care how I look, what I own, or whether people respect my choices. Finally, I'm happy. Story 16. Your body is at its peak physical capability. This is one I think so many people either never experience or only do at a young age where they can't possibly appreciate it. I always felt fat when I was younger and never experienced anything like peak physical capacity. I got into running in my 50s, and at peak points, I get this feeling of both sadness and incredible fulfillment. I couldn't have done this in my 20s, but if I had, what would it feel like? On the other hand, I feel like I've earned the right to this feeling, if that distinction makes any sense. When I step over a race finish line, I'm both overjoyed and exhausted in an indescribable way. I'll never know what I could have been, but I still feel connected to something primal in myself that I never connected to when I was young. Story 17. The unconditional love of a pet. I've always had pets growing up, and all of my partners have had pets too. I've been friendly with these pets and enjoyed them, but I found the obsessed pet people weird. A little over 2 years ago, my partner begged me to keep an abandoned puppy her dad found, even though we already had 2 dogs. I was kind of against it, but I agreed because my partner was going through a rough patch, and she loves animals. It felt like the right thing to do at the time. Since then, that little puppy has adopted me as her mommy, and I finally understand how other people feel when they go on and on about how much they love their pets. It's such a special feeling and connection. My partner got me a bracelet with a picture of a dog encased in a charm this Christmas, and I legitimately teared up. Prior to this dog, I'd have thought someone getting teary-eyed over a dog charm bracelet was a little dramatic or emotionally unstable. I'm glad I've finally gotten to experience loving a dog the way other people do. My dog brings so much love and light into my life. Story 18. Doing pest control in the city for 1 to 6 months. Not to understand the complex life, evolution, and behaviors of organisms and the environmental situations, which is invaluable on its own, but to witness the diversity of the human condition. Never have I been so humbled by people who live like kings and in squalor. Some wealthy people are in bubbles, others are deep and caring. The poor you end up seeing live either with what they got dealt with or the consequences of their choices or others. But other than that, you can see that life can never be black and white for you again. Some people live with terrible hands, and some are absolutely crazy. Some are doing great despite living in a rough area. You'll learn you can't save everybody, but a small act of kindness can be so impactful. You'll develop thick skin, as some will want more out of you than you really can't stretch. Most of all, you'll understand that children are the true victims of this world and that being a hero isn't always the answer. Sometimes the answer is just to be better or more patient with people along your path, because you have no idea what their yesterdays were like. Maybe they were evil. Maybe they were victims. Maybe they are victorious and amazing. You will see and meet so many that it will no doubt change you. Not to mention, you'll also be more selective when it comes to restaurants. Story 19. Peace and quiet in nature. Driving out to the wilderness and being able to sit and think deeply without the noises of traffic and city life helps you relax and get away from your busy life. I recommend it at least once a month. Plus, the views of the night sky are breathtaking. We also have a family cottage in a boat-only location with no cell or satellite reception, with a long island on the lake just outside of the inlet, so we can't see any of the neighbors across the way. Just a landline for emergencies and the cooling of the loons. It's so peaceful. Story 20. Live music. There's nothing like seeing your favorite bands perform with large crowds singing along with all of their music. I've seen over 500 shows since 2002, most of which are good to great. What I love most about seeing favorites is singing and shouting along with the lyrics at the top of my lungs, along with tens, hundreds, or even thousands of their fans, and truly being engaged in that moment. It's one of the few times I truly feel alive and connected to something greater than myself, and can truly shake all fears and doubts about life away. Having seen all but two of my favorites really makes me appreciate those opportunities, considering how many acts hang it up before you realize they won't be around any longer for one reason or another. Missed out on MJ, but will do everything I can to see Frank Ocean the next time he tours. Story 21. The Grand Canyon. It's the first time in my life that I realized just how small I am in this world. It's beautiful and frightening at the same time. This is the one attraction that is definitely not overrated. Pictures of it look spectacular, but they still don't come close to how amazing this looks in real life. Hiking down the canyon is one of my favorite experiences in life. Just make sure you have plenty of water with you and keep in mind that the hike up is a lot harder than the downhill. Also be prepared for quick changes in the weather. I started in bright sunshine and 2 hours later there was a massive rainstorm, followed by blue skies again. Story 22. The feeling of creating something, some piece of art, music, etc., that people you've never met go out of their way just to tell you they appreciate. God, that feeling of doing something so well that people just stop to enjoy it is out of this world. When I discovered the old country artist Graham Parsons 5 years ago, I honestly kind of shaped my life around him. My hair, the music I played and listened to, I was just enamored. And he's nowhere near as popular as he should be, so it's very, very rare that I find someone as excited about him as I am. 2 nights ago, I was busking in a pretty big tourist town while visiting my parents for Christmas, and was playing some Graham when a woman passed by, overheard, and became absolutely ecstatic. I swear she was almost crying. She was telling strangers they needed to stop and listen to me, and also danced with her husband in the alley I was playing in. I played a few songs for her and she gave me a hug and told me I looked and sound just like Graham. I swear it was like this magical moment where the past 5 years of my life became validated in some way. You're right, it's an incredible feeling. Now I just have to get some damn originals. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I'm sure you'll also enjoy what's your best karma story. Story 4 is hilarious. See you on that video.